Welcome to Friday. Welcome to my live stream on Friday. I am Chris Cillizza, formerly of CNN, formerly of the Washington Post, formerly of Marlboro, Connecticut. Shout out to Marlboro. I'm going to tell you before we get going what I am doing here. Uh, who am I and how did I get here? My job, as I view it, as an independent news creator, which is what I'm going to start calling myself, and I'm going to talk about that at some point down the road. What my job is, as I see it, is I am going to call balls and strikes in politics, no matter what uniform the batter is wearing. Reason in an hour of chaos, thoughtfulness, perspective, context in a time where that is, I think, all too fleeting. So that's what I want to do with this channel and what I want to do with my Substack. So if you do not subscribe to my Substack, you can do that. It's over at chriscillizza.substack.com. Sorry, I'm making sure I've got all my technology set. chriscillizza.substack.com is where you can do that. If you want to support what I'm doing, and I hope you do, you can do a couple things. You can subscribe to my Substack. It's $6 a month or $60 a year. You also can just get the content for free, or a bunch of the content, not all of it, but a bunch of content for free. But I would hope you'd subscribe. So that's over at my Substack. Here, you can just make a donation. I'm going to put a buy me a coffee link on a lot of my posts going forward. But if you want to make a donation, you can in the super chat. And if you do, what I will do is I will make sure your question jumps to the front of the line and gets asked. And I hope answered, but I will answer as many questions as I can, whether or not you give it a donation. The one thing that I will say to people and remind people of, this is how I make a living. So if you want to support me continuing to do this, make a donation, or at the very minimum, hit the subscribe button and tell some people about it. All right, here we go. Questions. By the way, I got a haircut today. My son says that I should shave my head, but I think I still have enough hair. I don't want to be that person who's hanging on, but I think I have enough hair. All right, here we go. Human NC. Hey, Chris, thanks for doing this. Do you think Trump's Gaza plan could happen to some extent, or should we just ignore it? Okay, I'm going to never say never as it relates to Donald Trump, but I think it's very, 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 very unlikely that it's going to happen. First, the logistical challenges alone are immense, right? We'd be talking about moving 1.8 million Palestinians who live in the Gaza Strip somewhere else. Now, where are we going to move them, and is it going to be temporary or permanent? Either way, a country would have to accept them, even if they were all willing to go, which they wouldn't be. But some other country is just going to say, yeah, we'll take 2 million other people and we'll house them. I'm skeptical that will happen. Then, Israel and Palestine, they'd have to agree, the Palestinians, they'd have to agree to the U.S. owning the Gaza Strip, which doesn't seem likely to me. I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's insane that Donald Trump is looking for other ways to solve a crisis like this, but this seems to me to be a little bit far-fetched. It's like the way that I think about his solution is like this. You go to a foot doctor and your foot is hurting you a little bit. The foot doctor is going to find something that they need to do to your foot. Even if it's just you probably don't need anything, they're a foot doctor. That's what they do. Well, Donald Trump's like a real estate guy. So his solution to everything is we'll knock everything down and we'll build a big, beautiful set of buildings. People are going to love it. I mean, I just don't know if that works. Let's see. Sherry Zimmerman. Chris, thank you for shining a light on the grinders of the world. The story of the tortoise and the hare and the last shall be first should be told and retold to children of all ages. Yes. So for people who don't know, I wrote a piece over at my Substack about how I'm a grinder. I'm a worker. I'm not a sort of natural, brilliant talent. And that I think that used to bug me. And now I take it as a point of pride. But thank you, Sherry. I very much appreciate it. Harsh Babe. Harsh asks, what will Trump's reaction to the latest Time magazine cover be? So Harsh, I wrote about this today over at Substack, and I'll paraphrase. Okay, so if you haven't seen, the Time cover is Elon Musk sitting behind what looks like a presidential desk with an American flag behind him. It's clearly meant to suggest that Elon Musk is the president. This will make Donald Trump insane for two reasons. One, which is obvious, Donald Trump doesn't like to give up the spotlight, right? Donald Trump wants to be the main lead actor every single day. He doesn't want anyone else kind of moving in on that primacy. And he really doesn't like when people that he thinks owe him for their fame try to get in on his spotlight, right? Now, Elon Musk was famous, obviously, and wealthy long before he met Donald Trump. But my guess is Trump thinks that at least some of Musk's relevance has to do with the fact that he's close to Donald Trump. So yes, it's a combustible relationship that will combust. All right, so that's point one. Point two, it's really important to remember that Time Magazine is not what it once was, right? Like at one point in the 80s, being on Time Magazine's cover is a gigantic deal. It's not as much anymore, right? Like glossy magazines have really lost, at least in the United States, have really lost their sway. But you know whose cultural references are entirely stuck in the 1980s? Donald Trump. So he'll care. Remember, this is a guy who had fake covers made declaring him Times Person of the Year and then hung them up around his clubs. This is a guy who is fixated for years about why he should be named Times Person of the Year. So this will annoy him. And I think, again, to me, Trump and Musk, that won't last. That can't last. It might last for another 6 months. It might last for a year. It might last for another 6 weeks, but it will implode because they're too alike. Harsh, thanks for the question. And thank you for the donation. Always very much appreciated. Matthew White, how would you have handled the Ukraine-Russia conflict in 2021 if you were in charge? Proxy war, non-intervention, or sanctions? Even if Ukraine had fallen, what difference would it have made to the U.S.? Matthew, man, foreign. Number one, I'm not the president, thankfully, and number two, foreign policy is not my thing. It's a complicated situation, obviously, because there's no easy solution to any of this stuff. I think broadly, we need to be mindful of Russia incursion and Russia expansionism. That has led to problems in the past. It's like if Germany all of a sudden starts trying to acquire land. But I don't think there's a simple solution. And I certainly don't think Donald Trump saying, like, I'll come in. It would have never happened. And if I had been president and I'll just come in and fix it. That's not exactly how it works. Mr. Wolf. Can you explain whether the aid to Israel and Ukraine is funded by U.S. taxpayers or if it's a deal between private defense contractors in those countries? No, I mean, that's part of we're spending U.S. budget dollars on that. Congress is allocating money to be spent on that. It is not private defense contractors. I mean, they may be providing the actual like material, like the weapons or the, whatever, but they're being paid by the U.S. government to do that. Ultimately, the U.S. government is funded by taxpayer dollars. Julio J. And by the way, folks, keep the questions going. Julio J. I'm a big Pete Buttigieg fan, but unsure about his presidential chances. In the meantime, strategically, what do you think are Pete's best options? I heard he may go for Michigan senator. So, he has ruled out he moved to Michigan in 2022. His husband, Chasten, is from Michigan native. They moved to Michigan in 2022 from Indiana. I think that's a move, at least in part, as a recognition that Pete Buttigieg probably wasn't going to get elected statewide to anything in Indiana. And Pete Buttigieg, according to aides, has ruled out running for the governor's mansion in 2026 and is focusing his time on maybe the Senate race. I think that's smart. I mean, either one of those races is fine. Now, I don't think he's a guarantee to win. I think he fits. I know he's been an executive mayor of South Bend, but I actually think he fits the Senate a little bit better in terms of his approach. Does that mean if he ran for Senate in 2026, would he run for president in 2028? Probably not, but remember, the dude is literally like 40 or 41 years old, or maybe even younger. He's got plenty of time. So I think he would be smart to run for the Michigan Senate. I don't know if he would win, but if he did win, it would obviously be a good launching pad for future national ambition. So I'm kind of interested. I'm staying tuned. Let's see. By the way, thanks to everyone who's joining. It always warms my heart to see those numbers go up. Just do me a favor. Hit your like button. Hit your thumbs up button, just so we get as many likes as possible on this. That helps with the algorithm. So if you like and gets my stuff out to more people. So if you like this, hit the like button. Jim Maxfield. Hey, Chris, I understand that money and politics have always been intertwined. However, with Musk, it's gotten out of control. Is there any way to rein it in, or is this the way it will be? So Elon, a couple things. Elon Musk donated $288 million to various Trump-affiliated organizations in Trump's campaign during the 2024 race. It makes him the single biggest donor, individual donor of either party to any candidate ever. Does that buy him access? Absolutely 100%. Am I surprised it has gotten him to head this organization in DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, that appears to have a lot of power and not many restrictions? Yes. I don't know that means that future big donors are going to be able to just kind of do what they want with the U.S. government. This feels like kind of a unique situation. But, Jim, to your point, people who give lots and lots of money are always going to get lots and lots of access. Ambassadorships was typically how it used to be. You get named the ambassador to the Bahamas or whatever if you gave a bunch of money. Now, I don't know if Elon Musk is changing that. Like, hey, do you want to come serve in the government? It seems weird that wealthy people would want to be involved in the government, but we'll see. So yeah, let's see. Patrick Murray. Patrick Murray. Thoughts on the FBI handing over 5,000 employees' details to the Justice Department for investigating January 6th? I mean, I know that, look, Donald Trump said he was going to get rid of people who were involved in January 6th investigation. He thought it was a fraud. I don't think it was, obviously, but he ran on that and he got elected. I think you can disagree with it, obviously, but I don't think you should be surprised by it. Maxwell Feiner, do you think Don Jr. would run against Vance in the 2028 primary? Great question. I gave a speech in San Antonio earlier this week, and somebody asked about 2028 and about Vance. And I said, I think he's probably the front runner, but I do think he has a Don Jr. potential problem. Now, Don Jr. and Vance are friends, obviously, right? Don Jr. helped Vance get the VP nomination because he was advocating with his dad to pick Vance. It would be hard for me to imagine they would both run, but I just don't know who gets to say no first. Does JD because he's in office and he's the vice president, or does Don Jr. because he's the eldest son? I'm the eldest boy. He's the eldest son of the current president of the United States. I honestly don't know, but I think that's a conversation that's going to happen. Let's see. Vladimir, in his first 15 days, Trump secured strong deals by using tariffs as negotiating tool on Canada, Mexico, and Panama. Smart strategy, right? Have other presidents used this tactic before? So it's interesting. He did so in Mexico, he got Claudia Sheinbaum, the president, to say they'll do 10,000 troops to the border. In Canada, he got them. The whole $1.3 billion to combat drugs was already ongoing, but he did get them to name a fentanyl czar to the extent that that's a thing. So I think a lot of that is in the eye of the beholder. Like, was bullying our allies, which is what Trump was doing, is bullying our allies worth what he got? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And I think that's a question, right? In the near term, sure, he got something out of it. In the middle to long term, if you bully your friends, I don't know if they stay your friends, just as a general rule, like in life, but also in foreign policy. So I honestly don't know. Scalpel is being used to trim the federal budget. Agree. I do think there is a broader scale cleansing poll than I might have expected. Look, again, Donald Trump ran on the federal government is too big. It's a big bureaucracy. We need to get rid of these civil servants. So the fact that he's getting rid of civil servants, I don't think should surprise us. The fact that they're getting rid, it appears Trump's put on Truth Social today that they're going to basically get rid of all USAID or take it from 14,000 employees to like 200 employees, which is effectively getting rid of it, is a little bit surprising to me. But again, I'm not sure. I wrote about this last night on my Substack. To me, Democrats picking a fight on USAID, whether you think it's morally right or morally wrong, what Trump is doing is politically dumb. Because what you're picking a fight on is an organization no one knows about, an agency no one knows about. And to the extent they know anything or can be informed about anything, it's that it provides a lot of foreign aid. You know what people don't like? Foreign aid. They're not big fans of us giving a bunch of money to other countries. So I get a lot of Democrats saying, but it's the right thing to do. And I say, that's a fine view for you to take. I'm just saying the most important thing in politics is winning. Winning allows you to get power, and power allows you to do what you want to do. And I know that seems icky and ugly to some people, but that's just the reality. If you don't win, you can't do anything you want to do or stop things you don't want to happen from happening. Democrats don't have any power right now in Washington. They obviously don't control the White House. They don't control the Senate. They narrowly don't control the House, right? So it's like you can win a bunch of moral victories, I guess, moral victories in your own mind, and lose real power and real control. And to me, the USAID fight is that. Again, this is not a judgment on USAID. I think they do a lot of really, really good work. It's just, I wrote last night, you got to figure out what pitches to swing at and what pitches not to swing at if you're the Democratic Party right now. And they just feel like, it just feels to me like they're swinging at like every pitch. DB, thank you for the donation. DB says, Don Jr. problem, cocaine. I mean, I know that's a thing people talk about. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to like randomly speculate. Like I've never seen any, I don't know is the answer, right? Like, who the hell knows? People sometimes say that I've heard people be like, are you on drugs or something? Cause like you have so much energy. No, I am not on drugs. I just have a lot of energy. So like, whatever. I honestly don't know. I'm not going down that road. Let's see. Burpee Boy, politically, should the Democrats be defending foreign aid spending and USAID jobs? No, they should not, as I just said. Sam, still a Cillizza fan. Hey, Chris, what's your reaction to Luka Doncic trade? What trade made you go holy S the most? Golly, I mean, I guess I sort of understand why they traded Luka Doncic, because they thought he was fat and out of shape and they didn't know if he would sign a deal. But like, I would not have done that. He's like a top 3 player in the league and he's 25. The trade that made me go holy S the most, probably Gretzky from Edmonton to the LA Kings. That was definitely one. Herschel Walker trade was huge. So yeah. M. Kundera, Milan Kundera is here. He wants to know about the Chiefs. Yes, the Chiefs are, I think, going to win. Yes. Aaron L. Lacheserie, who will get statehood first, DC or Gaza? Good one. Tammy Cochran, do you think Trump has factored in that a U.S.-owned resort on the Gaza Strip would make a great target for every terrorist group out there? No, he has absolutely not factored that in, Tammy. He doesn't think in those terms, even though he probably should. Paul Olson, here we are again. We made it to Friday. Well said, Paul. Here we are again. We made it to Friday. Barry Riley, am I the only one who remembers Obama going on TV with Biden telling the world that he lent Biden money to keep his house in Delaware? I don't remember that, but maybe that happened. Paul Olson says he loved my Stockdale reference. Where am I? How did I even get here? Let's see. Admiral James Stockdale was amazing. Let's see. Keep them coming. AI from Earth. When will we know the U.S. government no longer exists? Guys, I know it is popular and I know it gets people excited and outraged and nervous to say everything is coming to an end. Democracy is over. I just don't see that. Yes, Donald Trump is doing radical things. Donald Trump is threatening the way that we have thought of democracy. I do not think Donald Trump is going to end democracy. I know it would be better for my page views to say that he is. I've seen people succeed saying it. But I just don't. I've seen the Senate say, Matt Gaetz, we're not doing that. We're not making Matt Gaetz the attorney general. Sorry. That's something. That's checking the president's power. I have seen the Supreme Court say Donald Trump wants to not have to appear at his hush money sentencing trial. We're going to make him appear there. That happened since he's been president. So yes, I understand that the line that some of these people are drawing is not the line that a liberal Democrat or even a moderate Democrat or even a moderate Republican might draw. But there does appear to me to be a line by which they won't cross. Will they rub that line out eventually? I don't think so. I know people say that that's naive. I don't see it. Our system has stood through slavery, the Civil War, 2 world wars, Vietnam, segregation, January 6th, and it has managed to persevere. And I think it's going to continue to persevere. I have hope in that. And again, I know it is fashionable. I know it is a way to get followers and to make money if you're in my business to say it's all over. Donald Trump is going to suspend democracy. There won't be elections in 2028. You don't even need to worry about them. I just don't think that's true. H says bald is beautiful. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's still enough hair there. Paul Olson, do you feel Trump may have already committed impeachable offenses? Impeachable offenses, as we've learned over the last 25 years, are in the eyes of the beholder. Not in the eyes of this current Congress, he hasn't, because it's Republican controlled. Barry Riley, I really don't know how donations work. I'm a 61-year-old internet impaired. You just hit Super Chat, Barry, if you want to donate, and it'll come up. H, isn't it dangerous how much power Charlie Kirk is getting, almost like Tucker? I mean, look, yes, these are big voices in the conservative Trumpy world. They have a lot of power. They make a lot of money. Ben Shapiro makes millions. XPFC Wintergreen. Hi, Chris. Big news. My baby girl was born last week, 6 nights in hospital, 3 epidurals, a personal nurse, private room, C-section, home visits from nurse, 0 cost, plus 50 weeks paid leave with the Canadian flag emoji. Yeah, that would not be free in the United States. And congratulations. Dr. Banana. Chris, you still have a good head of hair, but if you decide to shave it off, you look like Jonathan Farrell on Bloomberg, but without his accent. I don't know him. Maybe I should check him out. And my head of hair is not great, I know, but it's still there. Taylor Lube. Did you watch the Royal Rumble? No, but I know who won, Jey Uso, and I think that's really smart. Again, I got to get back into pro wrestling. Hold on. I'm super hungry. I got to eat. I haven't eaten all day. Toast with wow butter. I know Jey Uso won. I think that's smart. I got to get back into it. That's my pro wrestling take. Watch Mr. McMahon on Netflix. Dan W. What is the latest in the debt ceiling? Could be the first big test for Trump and Congress. Short term, or do they punt until 2029? So it is coming up. Next couple months, they're going to run out of money again. And we'll have a debt ceiling fight. I do not think they will extend it through 2029. I just don't think the votes are there for it. I think it's going to be a big problem for Mike Johnson because there are people in that House Republican conference who are like, we are never voting for another increase in the debt ceiling. Now, that's stupid, broadly speaking, because the debt ceiling is basically paying your credit card bill. The government's already spent this money. It's not a function of like, we can spend more money. The government's already spent this money. It's a question of how much more, what are they going to spend in the future? So it's kind of a dumb debate, in my opinion, but I think it's going to be a gigantic problem for Mike Johnson because there's no easy solution. And Donald Trump is kind of all over the place on it. Paul Olson says, keep the hair. Smarkanish is already bald. Great point. John C., where are the Democrats? They seem to be in total disarray and missing. Yes, they are. Hold on, just got a screen time request from my kid. Got to approve it. Really important. They are missing. They don't know what to do. That's the short answer. They are caught betwixt and between. So they didn't think they were going to lose. They lost. They didn't win the House. They lost the Senate. They lost the White House. They are in the political wilderness, quite literally. So the question now is like, what do you do? Do you go the like full resistance route, or do like they did from 2017 to 2021, or do you go the John Fetterman, I'll work with Donald Trump where it makes sense and where it helps my constituents, and I won't where it doesn't? I don't think they know the answer to that. And there's no leader, right? There's no obvious leader. Kamala Harris is in California thinking about whether she wants to run for governor of California. Joe Biden, was too old when he was in office, is not going to be that leader. Barack Obama, not interested in it. Bill Clinton, not interested in it and too old. And you've got a bunch of like, Gretchen Whitmer and Josh Shapiro and Gavin Newsom and all those other people that we mentioned, but none of them are at the elevation where they can be like, we're going in this direction. And I think the Democratic brand is in really, really bad shape. Don't underestimate that story. I know Trump draws all the attention and all the energy, and that's his point, and that's what he's trying to do. But if you look at the Democratic Party, they have the highest unfavorables they've ever had in a lot of polling. People go look at the New York Times Ipsos poll from January. People were asked, what are the words or issues that you associate with the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and then what issues are important to you? The Democratic Party's issues are all out of whack from what people care about. And that's a big problem. People think they are like woke, transgender support, coastal elite, universities. That's not a winning coalition. So they have big problems. Lil Robot, at least now the Dems are doing something. The only issue is they're being cringe, but at least the protest they did together was a thing, not the right thing, but they usually just twiddle thumbs. So that USAID protest that they did with Chuck Schumer going, we will win. They should never do that again. Number one, because USAID is a losing issue for them. Again, I am not getting into the morality of this, but the politics of it is a losing issue. It just is. You're talking about foreign aid. People do not, the average American is not interested in giving more money to other countries. You can hate that. It's just a reality. Also, people don't know what the hell USAID is, and that's a problem. Chuck Schumer should not be the face of the Democratic Party right now. That is a mistake. Big mistake. So that, to me, that rally and event, bad politics. Paul Fang. Paul, thank you for the donation. Paul says, can the next Democrat trifecta pack the Supreme Court and add more Democratic states? How many current Democratic senators would never weaken the filibuster? They could, I guess, try to change the makeup of the court. They could try to add more states, but it's not going to happen. The way that these things are set up, could they get rid of the legislative filibuster? Probably. That you could change the rules and have a majority vote. So once you got a majority in the Senate, which I don't think Democrats will have in 2027, but once you got one, maybe you could do that. But they're not going to do that. I know that there's sort of desire for those kind of things, Paul, but it's not going to happen. Aldo Marino. So if we can't justify USAID in the DOE, how do we justify contracts with SpaceX? The Defense Department is a $900 billion budget. USAID is a $38 billion budget. So, yeah, that part of the problem, by the way, part of the reason that Elon Musk is targeting and Trump is targeting some things like USAID is because the reality of saying we're going to cut a bunch from the federal budget, we're going to cut down bureaucracy, is the vast majority of the federal budget is taken up by defense spending, which they won't cut, and Social Security and Medicare, which they won't cut. So you're basically like walling off this huge part of the budget and being like, okay, what little things can we pick off? And that doesn't totally work. DB says, I wish Pete could have been president. DB, thank you for donation. And I don't think Pete Buttigieg was going to make it in that last run. I don't know if he's ever going to be elected president. I've said I think we will have a female president before we have a gay male president. I could be wrong about that, but just in terms of how I think society will accept that stuff, we'll see. PJ, is Tom Cotton effectively the Senate leader? When Hegseth and Gabbard looked in trouble, it was said he did the full court press on the conference. No, I don't think he is. I mean, I think Thune is still, both in name and in practice the leader, but I do think that someone like Cotton has real power because he's MAGA aligned. MAGA? I always say MAGA, and I think a lot of people say MAGA. Anyway, he's MAGA Trump aligned. He is a pretty good speaker, pretty charismatic, and it wants to run for president. So I think he does have power, but I don't think he's the de facto leader. Let's see. Corey Springhorn. Pete Buttigieg is 43 years old. Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. Dave Hewitt, what is the award on your bookshelf? This is the 2010 National Capital Chesapeake Bay Emmy Awards Outstanding Politics Government Single Story or Series for the Fast Fix Political Video Series. I used to do these things. When I was at the Washington Post where I'd do this and give people a minute or two of politics news. And that was in 2010 revolutionary. So that's what I won it for. It's a regional Emmy. Cole W. Is what Elon and his 6-child acolytes doing legal? Methinks not. We'll see. We'll see, because I think it will be challenged in terms of how they are approaching this, and can the executive branch cut funding? Because Congress is what allocates funding, not the executive branch. That's not how it works. Congress says where the money is going to get spent. So we're going to find out. Chloe Louise, still trying to understand why Al Franken had to quit considering who is president now. Do you think he will run again? Yeah. I mean, I think in retrospect, Al Franken, the allegations against Al Franken would probably not have driven someone out of office now like they did then. But I will, as I always do, remind people, the reason Al Franken isn't in the Senate anymore is because of Kirsten Gillibrand. Kirsten, who is a Democrat. Kirsten Gillibrand turned on Al Franken over the allegations and said he should resign. And that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. It was not Republicans who pushed Al Franken out. It was Democrats. Let's see. So I'm just trying to get people who have not asked questions before. Champ Reviewer. Do you see Kamala Harris running for president again in 2028? So it's a good question. I've been pretty vocal that I don't think that would be smart of her. Oh, shoot. People are saying is the volume cutting out? Sorry. If it is, I'll stay closer to this. Sometimes I have issues with this mic. So I think that Kamala Harris is refresh the video to fix the chop. All right. Apologies if I'm screwing something up. I hope it's okay. Sorry. I do these questions in the order they come, so this may have already resolved itself. So sorry. Do I think Kamala Harris will run for president in 2028? I lean no. I don't think she should. And I don't know if she will. Here's why I don't think she should. I think she has the stink of losing on her right now. And while polling might show that she's the front runner today for the nomination, that's entirely based on name ID. People just know her name. They just know her name. That's not about whether she would actually win the nomination. I think her smartest move would be to run for governor of California in 2026. It's an open seat. Gavin Newsom is term limited out. Kamala Harris would be the clear front runner to be the Democratic nominee. Not a guarantee, but the clear front runner. And if you are the Democratic nominee for governor in California, you're almost certainly going to be the governor of California. So I think that's a race she can win. And I think that would allow her to kind of rehabilitate her political image, allow her to do some things, right? California is a gigantic state, gigantic economy, really influential, allow her to do some real things. And if she did well there, and the 2032 election was open, right? If Democrats didn't get elected in 2028, I think she'd be right there in the conversation. I think if she runs for president in 2028, I think she probably loses and then she's out. Also, what does she do between now and then? It's 4 years. So she's got to find something to keep herself in the mix, because otherwise, breaking news, people forget about you really fast. Happens all the time. So, I think she should run for governor in 2026. Let's see. Tammy Cochran, clearing out thousands of government employees won't reflect well on the jobs report, or is it small enough number not to matter? I don't think it will affect it heavily, Tammy. Might affect it a little bit. The Gump take, when there's too much friction with Trump and Elon, do you think Trump could put Elon in charge of rebuilding Gaza, assuming his plan happened? No, look, Elon is best, I think, at like taking organizations and figuring out how to innovate in them, not building a big thing in Gaza. And also that's not going to happen, as I addressed at the top. Let's see. Amy, how do you visualize America's future after 5 years? I wish I knew. I can tell you what I think the media will look like after 5 years. I don't know what I think the country will look like. The media will look very different. Mainstream legacy media will continue to shrink. Their viewership, their subscribers, all that will shrink. What they can pay staff, how big their staff is, what their mandate is to cover, all that will shrink. Independent journalism will continue to rise. At some point in the next 5 years, independent journalists will need to start to band together. I know this is funny. We're going to re-aggregate, but we will need to do that. We'll need to re-aggregate so that it's cost effective for people. Because, for example, Substack is minus $6 a month or $60 for the whole year. That's not that much money. But let's say you like 10 Substacks. Well, now it's $60 a month or $600 for the year. That's too much, right, for the average person, and I understand that. So we'll have to kind of re-aggregate at some point, but I do think independent media is where you're going to see the growth, and legacy media is where you're going to see a shrink. You didn't ask that, but I hope DB says, have a good weekend, time to go drink and play Days. What's Days? Should I know what that is? Is that a video game? And DB, thank you as always for your donation. Barry Riley, thank you for your donation. That, no question, just a really kind. Let's see. Sarah, the question should be, what are the Republicans doing about keeping the democracy safe? Sarah, again, I think here's what's hard, and I know people don't like to hear this, and that's okay, because I think sometimes my job is to tell you things you don't want to hear. Joe Biden running on democracy and keeping democracy safe from Donald Trump was not working in the 2024 election. If Joe Biden had never had the June 27th debate and he had spent his entire campaign running on that, he would have lost. Do I think January 6th was a massive moment in American history? I do. Is that view shared by the average swing voter? It is not. Why not? Don't really know. Maybe because the worst didn't happen. Maybe because they want to memory hole it. They don't want to think about it. But if you're talking about this, look, again, I know people hate the brass tacks of this, but the reality is politics is about winning and losing elections. It is not about winning or losing theoretical or moral fights. It just isn't. We can debate whether it should be, but it's not. You can be morally right and lose the election, and you don't have the power to do what you want to do. We are seeing that play out right now. Lots of people say Donald Trump ran an awful, terrible, amoral campaign. I don't disagree, but he won. And winning is what matters in our system, because that allows you to do what you want, which is what he's doing right now. So it's like, do you want to win the argument or do you want to win the election? You should focus on winning the election. Ahmed Hindawi, thank you, Ahmed, for the donation. That's incredibly kind. Hold on. All right. Keep going. Uh-oh. Okay, there we go. Ahmed, I appreciate it. Let's see. I am continuing to scroll. W 2.0. W, thank you. Neo Reuters lineup with Acosta, Cuomo, and more starting at $7 a month. What are some off the top independent teams you'd want to see? So I here's what I want. I have two bundling options for Substack and content more generally. One, you're really into politics. Here's a left, a right, a right, and a center. And I obviously want to be the center. But a left, a right, and center. So you're getting perspective every day on the news from the left, right, and center. I think obviously they would also need to bundle packages that are just the left, just the right, and I don't know if there'd be a lot of interest in this, but just the center. The other bundling idea that I think has real merit, a general interest bundle. So there's a news and politics drop down and you can pick one. There's a sports drop down and you can pick one. There's a pop culture entertainment movies and you can pick one. There's a weather and you can pick one, and you pay one set fee. Those are my two kind of thoughts on how this I think would work well, but I love that question, and thank you. Josh B. Josh, thank you so much for the very generous donation. Josh B says, love the chats and always enjoy your balls and strikes analysis. Is it possible to move the chats to the weekend? I always miss them now because I work Fridays. I'd love for these to take up a weekend morning. Thumbs up if you agree, chat. So, Josh, first of all, your donation is more than kind and very much appreciated. Second, I'm fiddling with what to do with all of this. I've been doing this Friday chat basically since I started doing YouTube regularly, so I want to keep that. Weekends are hard, candidly. I'm driving around to a lot of sporting events for my kids. Could I find time to do it? Yeah, although I also wonder if people want to break a little bit. I am trying to find an event every week that I can do kind of a live stream on where my head is kind of in, where would it be here? Like in the corner. And I'm commenting on something that we're all watching together on C-SPAN or something like that. So I'm trying to do that in a smart way, but I'm not totally, I've said this to people. I haven't totally settled on it, but I do like the idea. So if people do want to do, weekend chat, let me know. I mean, I'm flexible. I can probably make it work. Let's see. Bika says, I agree with you. Keep the hair. Okay, good. I like it. Thank you, my friend. Jason Roberts, any concern that Trump will install military leaders that will be more loyal to him to their oath to protect and defend the Constitution? Look, yeah, sure. I mean, I guess it's possible. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible. Hi, Chris. Michael Gates. Hi, Chris. Would you still be surprised if both RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard got confirmed? Man, they had a really, really good week this past week. Both through committee. I did not think both would make it through the committee. So I now think they probably both will get confirmed. I'd always said one won't make it, and I thought it might be Tulsi. I'll stick to the possibility that Tulsi might not make it, but you have to, she certainly seems more likely to make it than not. Let's see. Jonathan Verano. Hey, Chris, how do you think Monday's hearing on the court-ordered pause regarding Trump's deferred resignation deadline will have any impact on federal workers choosing to stay or take the buyout? Honestly, Jonathan, I don't know that it will. I think the biggest thing with the buyout of federal workers is, and I've touched on this a little, the issue is the executive branch does not really have the power to say, if you leave, we'll pay you through September. The purse strings of the federal government are held by Congress. They allocate the money. So it's like, I think for a lot of federal workers who might want to take the buyout, they're nervous because if they do it, it's not clear that the executive branch can make good on the we'll pay you through September thing. That to me is the thing that's affecting it more than anything else. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that's the biggest thing. DayZ is a video game, zombie survival game. Okay, thank you. Sorry. I only know about Legend of Zelda because that's what I'm focused on. You snooze, you news. If independent journalists re-aggregate, what prevents organizational biases from emerging? After all, Joe Rogan is solo and he's the biggest. True. I just think economically, it's going to be hard to keep asking people to give $6 here, $6 here, $6 here. Substack is different. YouTube is a little bit different because it's free. And by the way, I just had a conversation with people at YouTube. I do think I'm going to add a membership tier where you can become a paid member to my Substack, and I'm going to offer some more extra videos to those people because I want to make more videos, and I think that would be helpful. So you're right. The biases thing exists. To me, what you should say is like, here are the 5 people in our hive or whatever you call it. Here are the 5 people, and here's where they come from, and here's kind of their views, and you can make a decision based on that. Like, acknowledge that there are biases that exist and just be upfront about them. I don't know. That's what I would do. Zachary McGurk. I grew up in Crystal City, which for people who don't know is very close to DC. If you know 2 buildings down from the fountain, what do you think of Amazon's impact on DCA? Well, look, we're already seeing. So Amazon is moving their headquarters into Crystal City. That's the name of a neighborhood. And I think it's going to be vast. I mean, we're talking about 30,000 people, or their second headquarters to Crystal City. So I think it's going to be 30,000 people. And look, we already have seen they're adding more and more flights to national. They're not real. I mean, they're expanding it, but the runways are still the same. You know, that runway where the crash happened, where the plane was supposed to land, is the busiest runway in America. It's not the busiest airport in America, but the busiest runway in America. So I worry. I worry. Stankin. Hi, Chris. Keep up the great work. What is the best way to get Congress to step up and reclaim its constitutional powers in Ray Doge? Our checks and balances system won't work automatically. I think if you oppose it, you have to go out and do something about it. Like it's like what I say about everything. Like, it's not going to change itself. Right. And I'm not sure one person standing up is going to change everything, but, one person standing up leads to 5 people standing up, leads to 10 people standing up. I could see it. Angie says that protest on Monday at USAD was beyond cringe. Brutal. Don't do that again. If you're a Democrat, it was so terrible. The issue is a bad political issue, and the optics of that were awful. Hayes, it doesn't help the coastal elite view of Dems to have 2 New Yorkers leading the protests. Hakeem is great. Schumer needs to take a back seat. I think that was very apparent. Rusty, thank you for your donation. What can Dems do to start caring more about winning elections and not the argument? They seem obsessed with the argument and being right. Could not agree more. Again, I say this all the time to people. You can hate it, but the way that we determine who has power politically in this country is via elections. And that means that you need to put all of your focus on winning elections, not winning arguments. You know who understood that, actually? Barack Obama. Barack Obama was a political pragmatist. He sort of understood, like, we're not going to go all the way down this kind of left rabbit hole because we'll lose. We're going to talk about the stuff that we can win on. Again, so much of politics is swinging at the right pitch. Do you swing at the curveball that's diving down and off the plate, or do you swing at the fastball right down the middle? You might be able to hit either one, but one of them you have a much better chance of hitting. And I think Democrats don't get that. It's like they'd rather win the argument and congratulate themselves than actually win the election, which gives you the power to do what you want. It does not make sense to me. Travis Lindsay, thanks for the donation. Why can't the media outright ask if Palestinians will be allowed to live in Trump's Gaza? We know world's people is a cop-out. My read off of that press conference, Travis, and I could be wrong, was he was saying they would not live there, that they would be relocated to Jordan or Egypt or somewhere else, and that the Gaza Strip would not be a place where Palestinians would come back and live. Maybe I'm oversimplifying, but yeah, I mean, that's my impression. I mean, they've already hedged it and walked it back and all that stuff. So, maybe it doesn't matter. But Alice Ann Ack says, and you lost me. I don't know where I lost you, Alice, but I'm sorry. Robert, New York. Robert, thanks for the donation. Chris, did you know that Bill Clinton wanted to shut down USAID as well? I didn't know that, but I'm happy to, I'm not engaging on the moral rightness or wrongness of this. I'm engaging on the politics of it. People don't want money spent abroad. And that's if you're right, Robert, that Bill Clinton was shutting it down. I'm sorry, I'm ignorant about that piece of history. But if you're right about that, I would assume it's for the exact same reason. Yeah. Matthew McEwen says lunch with Chris. Nice. Yeah. I mean, this is not exactly, I got this and I got this. Let's see. Anthony DeGusti, blammo, you become the Democratic strategist tomorrow. What would you do to move the Democrats back into political relevance? Okay, so I wrote about this last night because I wrote about pitches Democrats should swing at and pitches they shouldn't swing at. Pitches they should not swing at, USAID and transgender stuff. They're political losers. Whatever you think of them, they're political losers. Pitches they should swing at, abortion. The American public is with their stance on abortion much more than with Donald Trump and the Republicans. They should talk about it all the time. I said on this stream, repeatedly during the election, Kamala Harris should talk about abortion more. She didn't. Abortion is one. Talk about it all the time. Talk about how Republicans are restricting rights. Talk about how Democrats trust women. 2, prices, egg prices, gas prices. Donald Trump said he was going to bring them down as soon as he was in office. Egg prices are way up. Talk about that. Make a big ass chart, blow up a chart on egg prices and show the thing going up. That's what regular people who are not part of the Democratic base are focused on. So talk about that. Ashutosh Baga, what's the best strategy against the shock and awe at multiple angles, according to you? So I've talked about this. Yes, Trump is trying to flood the zone. That is a purposeful strategy by his people. My view is distinguish mountains from molehills. Not everything is a 10 out of 10 hair on fire moment. There's a lot of Democrats who seem to think that everything Donald Trump does is a 10 out of 10 hair on fire moment. Democracy is in peril this very second. When you do that, you make the actual mountains less meaningful. If everything's a mountain and there are no molehills, the mountains don't mean anything because everything's a mountain. So I think you have to be thoughtful about how you approach this stuff. And I don't know that Democrats have been right now. Let's see. Nils Lindenblad, will we ever get back to the point where the Trump Republican Party accepts losing an election, or is it going to be their new strategy? I mean, I do wonder about that, Nils, right? Like, that's a conversation we didn't have that much after this election because Republicans won everything. But remember, on election day 2024, November 5th, 2024, Donald Trump in the morning put out something on True Social saying, I hear there are bad things happening in Pennsylvania. In speeches after the election, he has said the Democrats were definitely trying to steal it, but our win was so big they gave up. So it's not as though he's walked away from the logic that he has used. It's not based in fact, but the logic he has used. So I do worry about that, Nils, and I think that's a fair point. Dan W. Dan, thank you for the donation. And Dan says, keep the Friday time, add another time whenever. Okay, I will keep Friday for sure. And the question is, what else do we do? Let's see. Noel Fredrickson, as always, Noel, thank you for reminding people, smash that like button. Anthony DeGusti, I would subscribe to a Substack YouTube membership combo. Now, that's interesting, Anthony. The problem is they're two separate companies, right? But maybe I could figure something else out. Like, if you subscribe to like this tier of Substack, you also get YouTube for free. I don't know how I do the money piece of that, because like ideally you'd subscribe to pay for YouTube and pay for Substack, but like I get your point of like, can you just pay for them in one place? That's an interesting idea. Dr. Banana, Scott Galloway recently spoke about how much goodwill abroad we've bought with foreign aid. Americans should care about that. I know they won't, but they should. I totally agree. So I think if you don't know the idea of soft power is the idea of like, we're going to do things that help the American brand, help how people think about the American brand. And I think USAID is a great example of soft power, right? If we're in Africa trying to educate them about AIDS and clean water, and that I think accrues to the US's broad benefit. But we are living in a hard power age. Donald Trump's a hard power guy. Either you do this or something bad's going to happen to you, whether that's tariffs or we're going to send missiles or we're going to occupy, whatever. He does he's a hard power guy. It's all about toughness. It's all about we're bigger than you and we're going to take it unless you give it to us. I'm more with Scott Galloway, I think, but the American public isn't. As Robert New York notes in a Reuters poll, 56% of Americans want all foreign aid frozen for an audit. Yes, absolutely. Let's see. Use News, You News. This is a great camera angle and lighting. You might try lowering the camera and bringing it closer to your face. Well, Use News, I can lower the camera like that, but closer to my face, it's mounted on my monitor, which, by the way, thank you to Substack for buying me this Logitech camera. So I can't bring it. I guess I could bring it closer, but that might be too close. GP says income taxes aren't popular either. That doesn't mean we should eliminate them. I don't disagree. H, any chance of you making your own news network online? I'm thinking about getting bigger and adding more people. But again, I think part of the success of this is it's streamlined. If I want to make a video, I make a video. If I want to do a live stream, I do a live stream. If I want to write something on Substack, I write something on Substack. I don't have to like check with a million people. And so that to me, there's real value in that. And so I don't know. I think I'd like to be maybe part of a consortium who's doing this stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what opportunities come. I got some news coming on my various moves relatively soon. So stay tuned, but never fear. I will continue doing this for sure. Luke Fong, Chris, big up from Jamaica. Hello, Jamaica. Thank you. Mike, which presidential candidate, any time period that didn't make it, do you think would have been a good president? As always, I appreciate the videos and the streams. Thanks. That's a great question. I think Bill Bradley would have been an interesting president. He didn't come close. Gore smashed him in the 2000 primary, but I think Bill Bradley would have been an interesting guy to be president. George Romney, I think, would have been an interesting president. I thought he was interesting. Trying to think who's an obvious one. Those are a couple that jump to mind. It's a great question, though. The sort of also rants. I think John McCain would have made a good president, actually, and would have been good for our politics. Great question, Mike. David Johnson, Chris, whatever you do, I will be there. You are awesome. Thank you, David. So look, we're almost to 60,000 subscribers. My goal, I want to get to 100,000. Because I really think, like, if we get to 100,000, I think we can get to 1 million. I really do. I think from 60 to 100 might be tough, but from 100 to 1 million, I think we could do, because I think the algorithm would start supporting it. I think people are interested in news. Again, I am calling balls and strikes no matter what uniform the batter is wearing. And I think that's really valuable now. You're not always going to agree with me, but I hope you know what I'm trying to do and that I'm committed authentically to do it. And I'm not hiding any bias or corporate money or none of that stuff. Okay. So anyway, Luke Fong says a collab with Don Lemon. I've done some stuff with Don. I did it when he was doing the Don Lemon show on X. So yeah, I know Don is very big on social media stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy to talk to anyone, right, left, center. I really am. Let's see. Ken Joran Laren, 2025 agenda implemented in full or neutered. I assume you mean the Project 2025 agenda. Look, I think that they're going to do. Here's the thing about Project 2025. I know a lot of Democrats think it's like the worst thing in the world. The reality is there's a lot of it is just conservative policy positions put into a document. Are there some other stuff in there that's pretty radical? Yes. But the fact that they're doing some things that were in Project 2025 is because it's like conservative orthodoxy. It's not like some wild, crazy thing. So I think there will be some of it in there and there will be some of it not. Patricia Randolph. Patricia, thank you for the donation. Chris, what will happen to the cars, houses, and other property owned by illegals deported? Who is going to benefit from this windfall? Patricia, I wish I knew the question to that, and I don't. Yeah, I don't know. It's a very good question, though. Imported ICE. Any comments about most of CNN website going behind a paywall? They should have done it way sooner. There's no economic model for giving all of your content away for free. There just isn't, particularly when you're a giant news organization. They should have done it. Every content creator, every media company should have made the content just like Apple did with iTunes. Every song cost 99 cents. They should have made every article 25 cents to read or 50 cents to read in 2000 when people were starting to read on the internet, but they didn't. And now they're trying to put the genie back in the bottle. And I don't think it's going to work. Let's see. Tabby D, keep up the great work, Chris. Thank you. Robert, New York, you're doing great. Thank you. I do what I can. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Let's see. Just trying to get people I haven't asked. Gary N. Chris, regards to the soft power debate, some of the aid programs being touted appear to echo these topics Dems exalt at home. Could this backfire in other cultures? Yes. So look, USAID has a $38 billion budget or $33 billion, some huge number. Yes, they absolutely fund some programs where I'm like, do we really need to do that? Like that feels kind of more ideological than not. For my money, I still think we should be trying to prevent the spread of AIDS in Africa, trying to be an early warning sign for disease around the world, because as we saw with the pandemic, disease in Africa or in Europe or in Asia is going to affect us. So I'd rather we go scalpel approach and be like, okay, I don't want to do that thing or this thing because it's too woke. I'm fine with an examination like that. When you say we're going to shrink a 14,000 person unit to 200 people, we're sort of basically getting rid of it without getting rid of it. Let's see. Dan Lenning's PR team. Hey, Chris, thoughts on a new U.S. Capitol away from the DMV? I haven't heard of that, but I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. Matthew McCune, would you hire a team to streamline your operations, or does running a solo show feel better to you? Here's what I'd say, Matthew. It's a great question, and I've thought a lot about it. Somebody put this to me. They said, look, you're a guy who makes baked goods. You make really good baked goods. You open a bakery. You need to spend 90% of your time making the baked goods, because that's the differentiator. That's the thing you do that better than other people. So for me, the baked goods are the content, right? YouTube videos, Substack, the Instagram, whatever. What I need to do is not spend as much time marketing the bakery, uh, managing the healthcare for the workers at the bakery, whatever. Like, I need to focus my time on making the content and streamlining the other stuff. And I'm kind of working on how do I do that, Matthew? I hope that makes sense. Brad David, Brad, thank you for the donation. Brad says, do you think Democrats need to move to the center to start winning elections again? I don't know if it's the center, Brad. They have to change their brand. And I don't know if that's a left, right, center thing, but you cannot have your brand in the minds of people who are not already with you. You cannot have your brand be coastal woke elites talking about transgender. You just can't. It's not a winner. You need to talk about economic issues, lived economic issues, price of things, bacon, eggs, gas, etc. Talk about abortion because it affects lots of people's lives, touches lots of people's lives, and the public is with you. Don't talk about how bad Donald Trump is and how he's a threat to democracy and how USAID funding is, because you're not going to win. You have to fight back. It's like everything else. It's like the Civil War, like every battle ever. Fight on ground that is advantageous to you. Do not pick disadvantageous ground to fight your battle because you have a much less chance of winning. Dan Lenning's PR team. Dan, thanks for the donation. Will Trump take the bait on the time cover? Almost certainly, yes. So, Dan, I posted about this on Substack, and we actually started this chat, this live stream with it. Yes, I think he will. I think it'll drive him crazy, and he'll be forced to do something. I do not think he will fire Musk. I see your note there. I don't think he will fire Musk, but it absolutely will annoy him, and I think he will probably pop off about it. All right, I think that's about it for everyone who joined live. Thank you. We had almost 350, which is amazing. For everyone who donated, I really appreciate it. I will put a buy me a coffee link on videos. I got to figure out how to do it, but I will put a link there. So if you want to just donate to support me, I very much appreciate it. The things that you can do that don't cost anything, though: subscribe to the channel if you haven't, like both this video and other videos going forward. You can comment. It costs you a little bit of time, but doesn't cost you much beyond that. And you can tell people about it. You can spread the word about what we're doing here and why I'm doing it. Again, balls and strikes, no matter who, what uniform the batter at the plate is wearing. That's me. That's what I do. If that appeals to you, I hope you subscribe. If you want to donate, I thank you in advance for your donation. Lions 1956, you sure are persistent. What's the most likely Senate flip in 2026? Georgia, John Ossoff. Thank you all for your time, your support, your energy. And if you haven't checked out my Substack, go and check out my Substack. It's free. 70+% of it is free. If you want to pay it $6 a year, $6 a month, or $60 for the year, I appreciate it if you do. All right, that's all for me. Have a good weekend. Take care of one another. Take care of yourselves, and keep spreading the word on this channel. Okay? I need y'all. Take care.